Hello, this is Bern, and if you're looking to attract a conscious man in his 40s or 50s and haven't had success yet or haven't made the best choices so far, in today's video I'm going to share a fresh and better approach to evaluate what types of men would be the best life partners for you and which ones, despite appearances, will result in emotional drama and more wasting of time. Hello, this is Bern. Welcome to another edition of BernMendez.com. If this is your first time here and you want to learn how you can attract your ideal life partner without the need for gimmicks, manipulation, or silly techniques, make sure to hit the subscribe button right now so you can be notified of new episodes as they come out. Listen, if you're watching my video right now, I don't have to explain to you that finding a life partner in your 40s and 50s is more challenging than earlier in life for many different reasons. And I actually created a video last week that explains many of those reasons, and I'm going to link it on the description below for you. But what I also want to share is, despite that it's harder, it can be better for three specific reasons. The first one is because you know who you are far better right now in life than you did earlier in life, and as a result of that, you're more likely to find a partner who's resonant with you versus someone who you don't know is not the right fit for you. Second is because you have suffered more. And while suffering is not something I wish upon anyone, suffering changes who you are, sometimes for the better. Why? Because you understand what matters. You can separate bullshit from reality far more powerfully. What you want right now is probably different than what you were seeking earlier on. Even though some of the elements are the same, you've learned to differentiate between things that are superficial in nature and things that are more powerful, which is the third reason as well. You're seeking more depth. As the train sometimes feels like a bullet train called life is moving forward towards a destination that is at some point leaving this earth, you've come to understand that the only thing you can take with you is the depth that you experience, what you gave and what you received, and that includes love. So because of these reasons, even though it's harder, you can find far more fulfillment in your relationships because you're more conscious of what you need and what you don't need. The other thing I want to share is that no one man fits all. I don't intend to share that my recommendations for what to seek for in a man will be the right fit for everyone. So I'm making some assumptions in this video that will help you, if you fit these assumptions, be a better fit for what to look for in my description. So the first assumption I'm making is that you are seeking ideally longevity. And by longevity, I mean you would rather have an amazing man by your side for the rest of your life than multiple partners, let's say 5 more partners that every 3 and 5 years enter and leave your life. The second assumption is that you're seeking a balance between a guy who has his own awesome life but wants to co-create life with you versus someone who has an awesome life and doesn't want it, or someone who has a shitty life and wants to create it just with you. The third one is you're seeking passion. You want a guy who's excited about living life, who has an optimistic outlook about what's possible, and who's willing to share that passion and that excitement with you. This video is going to be divided up in 2 different sections. The first section is going to be pitfalls, and that means over the years, more than 10 years that I've been consciously helping women who are single to attracting their ideal life partners, I've seen a lot about what makes it so hard for women, especially women in 40s and 50s, in terms of creating the relationship that they seek. I'm going to share some of them with you so you can identify them, perhaps maybe see if there's something that you're doing that's hurting you. And the second part of this video is going to be the specific recommendations I have, the nuanced, fresher approach in terms of what are some things that you should be looking out for that you may not be looking out for right now. And as a result of that, might be wasting some time with men that are not the right fit for you. Now, the first pitfall is falling into the trap of feeling like the scarcity you're experiencing in life right now in terms of men is only coming from the fact that the majority of men out there will not be a fit for you. And I'm not just saying that because I don't think that the majority of men will not be great. Some men are great, some men are not. I'm talking about your ability to not just find a great man, but a great man who's compatible with what you want. So I'm saying it to you directly. The vast majority of men out there, for so many different reasons, including not all men are great, but also some men look for different things than you look and have a different life stage than the one that you're in right now and have different preferences than the ones that would make you happy. They're not the right fit for you. But sometimes you might think erroneously that that's the only reason why you're not finding what you want, when in reality, the second part of that equation is you are sometimes spending an inordinate amount of time with men who are not the best fit for you, and as a result of spending that time with them, are starting to think that all men are the same. So the second pitfall that is making this hard for you is not having a renewable source of connections with men. What that means is that if you don't have a conscious dating strategy, if you don't have a way to consciously bring men into your life as you evaluate who's the best partner for you, the challenge becomes that the first guy who arrives, who's a little bit better than the rest, becomes your focus of attention, takes a place in your heart, becomes exclusive in your mind, even though he shouldn't be exclusive with you, or you shouldn't be exclusive with him just yet. So that's part of what I want you to get right now, that if you don't create a conscious, renewable source of connections, this process will be far more challenging for you. The third one is that sometimes you're letting intensity blind you to the point where you're not seeing so much of who a guy is because you're so keen in experiencing this connection with them. When a guy comes into your life and shows some signs that point that he's the right guy for you, sometimes the intensity of the emotion, especially if there's chemistry, if there's touch, if there's physical connection, makes you not see the areas of his life that are incompatible, makes you not ask the right questions, makes you go 5 steps ahead instead of recognizing that there's still a significant path you need to follow before you decide that this guy is the right guy for you. So what happens? You open more quickly, you become intimate sooner, you also become more vulnerable in ways that the guy hasn't yet earned, and as a result of that, you get hurt. When you find out the bubble of this honeymoon bursts, and you recognize that the guy is not who you thought he was, it feels overwhelmingly painful because your brain now starts going into, what did I do wrong? Is this all that exists? When will I get this? All men are the same. So intensity can be a blinding force that is powerful to feel, but sometimes creates disastrous results if you're not super aware of what's going on. The next challenge that makes this process hard and makes it hard for you to recognize who's the best guy for you and who isn't is not being crystal clear on what you want. So what does that mean? That means that you need to find out and take some time to define for yourself, not just what are the virtues you're looking for in a man, but what's the type of relationship you want and what can you give and how does that guy fit into your life and how does that translate over time. The clearer you can be about what you can offer, how many times do you want to see him? When do you want to open up to friends and family? How often do you want to communicate with them? What feels right and what feels wrong for you in terms of time spent with him? If you are not clear on those things, that whatever shows up, you will not really know if it's right or wrong for you. You might actually be getting what you want and feel that it's not enough, or you might have something that's not good for you, but because you haven't been clear on what you want, you continue with something that isn't a fit. The next challenge is not seeking clarity early on. So if you're clear on what you want, but because of this fear of a guy leaving, because of this fear of a man disappearing from your life, you aren't asking enough questions early on to let you know that the guy is on the same path as you are, that he wants what you want, that his values are aligned, that his spirit and your spirit are in sync, then what happens is you fill in the blanks. And by filling in the blanks, I mean you project what you want to have happen as if it were happening. And again, when you recognize, sometimes you feel like you bump against a glass door because it's so sudden that you recognize that he is not the right fit. It's too late because your emotions, your heart, your body are too much into the mix. And the next challenge, the last one I'll bring up for right now, not knowing how to bring up challenges in a solvable way. Which means if you're connecting with men and you're evaluating those men and something happens that is not up to par, women who are having challenges really finding that solid relationship sometimes do one or two things. They bring it up in a way that is so disrespectful or so emotionally charged that the guy doesn't know what to do with it and runs away, or they don't bring it up at all. They take it in, they push it down, and then they start getting resentful because they don't know how to bring something up in a way that could cause the guy at least the option to step up or step down. So they don't bring it up and the same thing continues, and one day it's too much pain, too much disrespect in the way you interpret it, maybe he doesn't even understand it, and then you have to call it quits or he calls it quits. So those are some challenges that you may not be aware of right now or not be pinpointing that are making this far harder than it needs to be for you. Now, before I go into my specific suggestions for what to look for and what not to look for in men, if you are someone who's looking to create a conscious dating strategy, if you want to understand how you can take the concept of this video beyond just intellectual understanding and start stepping into the transformation that makes you able to create a shift in your life, then go to the first link in the description of this video. You'll see a page that looks like this. Enter your name and email, and you can start watching my free training on My Dating Cure, how you can attract conscious men into your life. If you're someone who's high achieving, but haven't really created this result you want in your love life, then this will help solve it at a deeper degree than many of my videos. So what to look for and what to avoid. The first virtue that you may not be focusing on right now because you're looking perhaps for a strong, masculine, alpha type of guy who makes shit happen, who has confidence, sometimes too much confidence, is empathy and kindness. The strongest alpha male in the world that doesn't have compassion and kindness is actually a toxicity to this planet. Why? Because he will not understand what it takes for him not to just realize his vision, but to take everybody's vision into consideration and make this a better place. So empathy leads to kindness, leads to compassion, leads to understanding, leads to being felt, being seen, being heard, being understood. So when you are connecting with men, avoid men who feel so confident and so strong that don't have the capacity to tap into empathy, meaning feeling what you're feeling, experiencing what the server at the restaurant who was treated rudely by them might be experiencing, who don't have the capacity to really go outside themselves and put themselves emotionally in somebody else's shoes, because as strong and as awesome as you think that guy is, you will be the recipient of his wrath at some point, and he will not be able to feel the pain he's inflicted on you. So make sure that that's something that you're actively seeking in the men you're connecting. The next one is strong focus on health. And I'm not talking about someone who's obsessive about exercise, because that's just one version of health, but I'm talking about someone who really values movement, who values flexibility, who values mental health. And that includes exercise, that includes learning, that includes meditation, that includes cold showers and cold plunging, that includes someone who's willing to have a social life and not just be a hermit in his own little bubble. That includes someone who has generosity of spirit, who contributes. Why is health so important? Because without health, without breath, without movement, what you seek to experience later in life, from anything from erectile dysfunction, which will be a slight issue in your sex life, to someone who doesn't have the capacity to understand and go the distance emotionally. If you don't have what it takes in your hardware, you will not have what you need in your software, meaning your emotions, to be able to make things happen. So I'm making a stronger emphasis in my videos to talk about this, because many of you are seeking to connect with someone who has a bunch of qualities, but health isn't one of them. And without health, you are going down a tube of potential pain that is of the sharpest kind. Next one is purpose. And by purpose, I mean every person has a different way of defining that. But the way I'm defining purpose right now is, does that man understand some of the reasons why he's here? And not only does he understand why he's here, but is he doing something about it? Is his vision for life, does that include himself and himself only? Or does that include making life better for others in his own unique way? And it doesn't have to be in any particular way. It just has to be something that actively seeks the betterment of other human beings. That's ideally what a purpose has, not just something that's selfish, but something that's selfish and selfless at the same time. Now, there's going to be three types of men you connect with. One, who is strongly in his purpose. Ideal if you can find this. Second, someone who's walking towards his purpose. He's not there yet, but he's hungry and he's going towards it. And the third one will be a guy who's not either looking or is not caring about a purpose, and he's completely out of that framework. The reason why this is important is because if a guy is stronger in his purpose, he'll be a better partner so long as he has balance in his life, because he has more to give. He's not seeking to fill his emotional void through you. That might feel fun at the beginning, a guy who's just all into you, but if he doesn't have a life, then that becomes smothering, and that becomes really unexciting down the road. Or a guy who maybe is not all into you, but you don't feel admiration towards, because you don't feel like he's doing what he needs to be a man of service in this world. Next one would be a clarity of relationship vision. And what does that mean? That means, in simple terms, does he know what he wants in a relationship? Does he know what his ultimate goal is? Does he know how to get there? Now, there's going to be guys who have a sharp vision and have written it out and have spec'd it out for years to come. There's going to be guys who kind of know it and are able to share it. There's going to be guys who don't have it and don't want it. The guy you need to avoid is a guy that you ask, what are you looking for in a relationship? And he has no clue, and he feels threatened, and he feels that you're pushing him by asking him a simple question. Listen, you're a man in your 40s or 50s, and you have no freaking idea what you're seeking in a relationship. You don't deserve to be connecting with women who know what they want, because it's going to be so unfulfilling for both of you. She is going to feel like you're not up to par, and you're going to feel like you can never make her happy. So there you have it. The next one is value-driven, hunger for more. And I say value-driven because, again, there's going to be a guy who's not hungry at all, which probably will make it hard for you to feel like you can admire him and feel like he can actually add a lot, especially if you're a hungry woman. If you're someone who's ambitious and the guy's not ambitious, it's unlikely that you're going to feel a lot of polarity towards him. But there's going to be guys who are hungry at the detriment of humanity, at the detriment of you, at the detriment of family. So when I'm saying look for a guy who's hungry and value-driven, is looking for a guy who's hungry for more, but not at the expense of what's most important to him. Not at the expense of spending some quality time with people he loves. Not at the expense of his mental health or his physical health. You want a guy who's hungry, but a guy who's hungry and balanced. Same thing as I was talking about before, the alpha guy who goes for what he wants, no matter what, chopping heads and taking names, but doesn't really care about the trail he's leaving behind. It's a guy who's not good for you unless you're seeking a superficial relationship where you won't feel seen or heard. Last one is going to be ability to access polarity. And by accessing polarity, I mean, I've talked a lot about masculine and feminine, and there's so much talk beyond. I mean, there's so many people who are talking about this, but here's the one thing I'll say in this video about it. While you want a guy who is strong in his purpose, which is a masculine quality, you also want a guy who has the capacity to step into his feminine. Without a man being able to step into his feminine, he won't have that empathy. He won't have that nurturing feeling. He won't have that capacity to feel deeply and express feelings. So while you want a guy who's hungry and masculine, you also want a guy who has the capacity to transcend that masculinity and enter into his feminine side, just like you are able to go from feminine to masculine as well. So you want someone who has that capacity versus someone who's just stuck on one or the other. Hope this is helpful, useful, insightful. If it is, I'm going to ask you to do one thing. Click like on this video and or thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. But if you want to learn how you can take this deeper, make sure to hit the first link on the description of this video and start watching my free training that can take the concepts of this video farther than I can share in these brief moments. Last but not least, if you're still watching me right now and you understand that this makes sense to you and you want help, hand-holding, accountability, customized strategy to help you get there in a fraction of the time, second link in the description of this video will allow you to connect with me and find out if we're a great match to work together. Thank you so much for allowing me into your heart, into your home, and as always, I challenge you to live a full and a conscious life.